Question for you, for $45,000, should you buy a new Ford Ranger or a used Ford F-150? Let's put these two popular pickups side by side and dive into a very surprising math lesson about how much the Ford Ranger will cost you on gas versus every single engine available in the F-150. We're choosing a $45,000 Canadian dollar budget. In this case, that is roughly the midway point between the entry and fully loaded prices of a 2023 Ford Ranger. So that's also the exact same price point we'll be using for the second-hand latest generation F-150 you could buy instead for the exact same money. But should you? Well, maybe so and maybe no. It's time to dig in, so let's meet the machinery. That's me back in 2020 on my first test drive of the new Ford Ranger.
Hi there, I'm Justin Pritchard. This is the new Ford Ranger. You've got some questions, and that means that I've got some driving to do.
And back then I thought it was a machine with a good command of its ride comfort on rough roads and trails, common in my Northern Ontario locale, as well as solid highway manners and an overall easy-to-drive character that was backed by plenty of torque and a feeling of refined solid toughness beneath. So on those traits, a lot to love. On the other hand, that rear seat is an all-or-nothing ordeal when it comes to folding, meaning I wish for a more flexible interior and a more modern one too. Lots of the cabin of this latest Ranger was looking pretty dated out of the box. Today, Ford will sell you one of these with standard four-wheel drive and an EcoBoost 2.3-liter four-cylinder turbo engine. Pricing starts at $38,480 for a basic XL and tops out around $46,795 for a fully loaded Lariat, meaning that at our price point of $45,000, you're in a brand new Ranger XLT Super Cab with 6-foot box or an XLT Super Crew with 5-foot box, and you've got some room left over for some accessories or packages. Look for advanced Co-Pilot 360 safety tech, a backup camera with reverse sensors, dual zone front climate control, remote start, Ford Sync 3 infotainment, and pre-collision alert. And this is the 2021 Ford F-150, and spending the same $45,000 or so on one of these will make any size and space problems you might face in the Ranger disappear, thanks in no small part to the big, open, and completely flat space you'll find in the back of an F-150 Super Crew with its seats flipped up. So this is Ghost. Ghost is a very, very good boy, and he really likes the back seat of this F-150 Tremor for two reasons. Number one, we've got these fixed side steps here that make it easier for him to jump up as he gets a bit older. And number two, this rear floor is completely flat here, which makes it easier for him to get inside, easier for him to get comfortable, lie down, lots of room to chill out and relax after a nice game of fetch. Right, buddy? I know. Used car listings show decent selection on F-150 XLT 4x4 models with low to reasonable mileage in the 50 to 70,000 kilometer range for $45,000 or less, typically 2 to 3 years old and with the 5-liter V8 engine, but often enough with EcoBoost V6 power if you can stretch your budget by a few bucks. And as of this writing in late summer of 2023, shoppers after a higher trim grade will likely need to stretch their budget a little or accept some more mileage on the odometer. But the point is, at $45,000, you've got solid selection on second-hand F-150 4x4s to choose from, with reasonable miles and even more so if you can stretch your budget a little. The Ranger I'm showing you here is actually the one that was initially brought to market back in 2011 on what's called the T6 platform. Though on sale in international markets all the way up until 2018, it was the 2019 model year before the Ranger went on sale in Canada. Today in 2023, we're expecting this generation Ranger to disappear soon, and for an all-new Ranger model to replace it for model year 2024. On the other hand, the latest generation F-150 hit the road for model year 2021. The engineers call the latest platform the P702, and it's the F-150's 14th generation. So to summarize, beneath this skin, even a few-year-old F-150 is still a far more modern vehicle than a brand new 2023 Ranger when it comes to its underpinnings and platform, and maybe especially on board, where you'll notice the F-150 has the much more modern-looking cabin. Every Ford Ranger comes with a singular engine option. It's a 2.3-liter EcoBoost 4-cylinder turbo that generates 270 horsepower and 310 pounds of torque. Four-wheel drive is standard, as is a 10-speed automatic transmission, and maximum towing capacity is 7,500 pounds. If you're considering a used F-150 as well, it'll have one of several engines under its hood. The standard engine is a non-turbo 3.3-liter V6 with 290 horsepower and 265 pounds of torque. Then there's the 2.7-liter EcoBoost V6, which is turbocharged for 325 horsepower and 400 pounds of torque. The 5-liter V8 generates 400 horsepower and 410 pounds of torque, and the larger 3.5-liter EcoBoost V6 makes 400 horsepower and 500 pounds of torque. Towing capacity reaches 13,900 pounds in the F-150 when properly equipped, and that's coming up on double that of the Ranger. So to summarize, versus a new $45,000 Ranger, a used $45,000 F-150 can deliver up to 85% more towing capacity at the same price point. All available Ford F-150 engines mentioned here are more powerful than the Ranger's standard engine in terms of horsepower, though the Ranger's EcoBoost Turbo 4 does make 15% more torque than the base F-150 3.3-liter V6. Elsewhere in the engine room, the F-150's 2.7-liter EcoBoost V6 delivers 21% more horsepower and 29% more torque than the Ranger, while the 5-liter V8 delivers 48% more horsepower and 32% more torque for your dollar, leaving the 3.5-liter EcoBoost V6 to spin up 48% more horsepower and a whopping 61% more torque than the Ranger's engine. We'll be diving into fuel economy math very shortly. But first, size and dimensions. The Ranger and F-150 represent medium and large options for Ford pickup shoppers respectively, and the compact Ford Maverick is the small option, by the way. So when comparing F-150 Super Crew and Ranger Super Cab configurations, the F-150 has a 46.2 cm or 18.2 inch longer wheelbase, and comes in at 5.3 cm or just over 2 inches wider, as well as 53.3 cm or 21 inches longer in terms of overall length. The turning diameter is also nearly 14% bigger in the F-150, so keep that in mind if you'll frequently find yourself navigating tight quarters. In the F-150, you'll also find 5.1 centimeters or about 2 inches more rear headroom than the Ranger. That's a 5.2% advantage. More importantly, the F-150 offers nearly a full 25.4 centimeter or 10-inch advantage in front and rear shoulder room, as well as 36% more passenger volume versus the Ranger for the same $45,000. You know the truck and the engine you choose will have implications on your monthly budget, but how serious are those added fuel costs for the more powerful engines in the bigger F-150? Well, I think most shoppers will be surprised to find out they're actually somewhat minimal. Well, I've crunched the numbers already, and so here's my report comparing the fuel economy down to dollars and cents between comparable Ranger and used F-150 models for every available engine, and just maybe I'll throw in the Ford Maverick for fun. So let's run the report. We're assuming you'll drive 25,000 kilometers per year and pay $1.50 for a liter of gasoline, and for the fuel economy figures we're using, we're only comparing trucks with four-wheel drive. So to drive 100 kilometers in a 4x4 Ranger requires about 11 liters of gas, that's 21 miles per gallon. Driving a Ranger for 100 kilometers will therefore cost Canadians about $16.50, and if you're driving 25,000 kilometers per year, then that's an annual fuel bill of around $4,125. To drive 100 kilometers in an F-150 4x4 with the basic 3.3-liter V6 requires about 11.8 liters of gas, or about $17.70 worth. That's 20 miles per gallon. If you're driving 25,000 kilometers per year, you can expect an annual fuel bill of about $4,425. That's just $300 more than the smaller Ranger. That same 100-kilometer drive in an F-150 4x4 with the 2.7-liter EcoBoost V6 also gets 20 miles per gallon, and in metric it's 11.7 liters per 100 kilometers, just a tick less than the base model V6, meaning the F-150's smaller EcoBoost drinks just a few dollars more per month than its base-level engine, despite 35 more horsepower and 135 pounds more torque in the F-150. And still, you're only $300 per year more than the Ranger in terms of annual fuel costs. Call that $25 a month. With 5-liter V8 or 3.5-liter EcoBoost V6, the F-150 makes 400 horsepower and uses about 13 liters per 100 kilometers, roughly 18 miles per gallon. Though that same amount of fuel gets you 410 pounds of torque with the 5-liter V8 and 500 pounds of torque from the EcoBoost, alongside the same annual fuel bill of $4,875 regardless. That's $750 per year more than the Ranger, about $62 per month added to your gas bill. So the big news here is that the fuel bill of a Ranger 4x4 and an F-150 4x4 can be separated by just a few bucks, and going with the 2.7-liter engine in the F-150 gives you a major boost to power and size, and especially towing capacity, versus the Ranger despite drinking just $300 more fuel annually. So compared to a new $45,000 Ranger, a used $45,000 F-150 with the 2.7-liter engine gives you 20% more horsepower and 29% more torque, in exchange for just 7% more of your fuel dollars. Step your annual fuel budget up a few $100 more and you're into the 5-liter V8, making 48% more horsepower and 32% more torque, for about 18% more of your fuel dollars. That's about the same increase in fuel dollars as the 3.5-liter EcoBoost V6, which turns in 61% more torque. So given our math here, there's roughly $63 per month separating the 270 horsepower Ranger from the F-150 with the most powerful engine option in the video. Now let's see how Ford's smallest truck, the Maverick, compares to its big brothers. After all, if you don't need as much torque, size, or traction, it could be the right truck for you. So pricing from $31,100 with standard hybrid power, which only comes front-wheel drive, but achieves incredible fuel economy alongside 191 horsepower and a 2,000-pound towing capacity. Literally, this uses less fuel than a Honda Civic. The Maverick's other engine, and the one you need for four-wheel drive, is the 2-liter EcoBoost Turbo 4 that's good for 250 horsepower and 275 pounds of torque. That configuration will tow up to 4,000 pounds, just about half that of the Ranger. The Maverick with 2-liter EcoBoost and four-wheel drive gives us an annual fuel bill of $3,675. That's $450 a year less than the Ranger, or call it $38 a month. With the hybrid engine, you won't be towing as much or doing as much off-roading, but you do get pickup functionality, alongside an annual fuel bill of just $2,362. That's a $1,300 per year savings versus the EcoBoost Maverick, or over $100 per month. So here's the handy table again, with the additional fuel costs of the Maverick displayed for reference. So an F-150 EcoBoost uses double the fuel of a Maverick hybrid despite delivering well over triple the torque, double the number of driven wheels, and more than 6 times the towing capacity. Jumping from a Maverick 4x4 to a Ranger 4x4 means a roughly $38 monthly increase to your gas bill, and if you just compare four-wheel drive trucks and take the Maverick hybrid out, the total monthly impact on your gas bill, whether you choose the most efficient remaining option, being the Maverick EcoBoost 4x4, or the thirstiest option, an F-150 EcoBoost, is about $100 a month at the pumps. Now if we drop the Maverick from the comparison and strictly compare the F-150 to the Ranger, you've got the most efficient remaining option as the Ranger at $344 per month, and the thirstiest F-150 EcoBoost at $406. Translation: if you can cough up an extra $62 a month for gas, don't mind driving a used truck, and really like torque, well, you've got some thinking to do.